Good evening. I'm spot on weather meteorologist Matthew Euler, and we're going to take a look at the long range. And again, it's a very interesting long range pattern, similar to what I did a couple days ago in the long range video. I'll be talking about the surface analysis as well as the 300 millibar chart. So we'll take a look at both and do some comparisons. So starting off with this Friday, the 30th of December, we have some very low thickness values that are dipping down into the southeast into northern Georgia, South Carolina, and what that's going to do, very low thickness values into southeast Virginia, as low as 522 decameters of thickness, which indicates very cold air. We still expect this Friday, to be the coldest day of the week, with high temperatures between 41 and 43 degrees Fahrenheit. And to back up that plunge of Arctic air, we will have the Arctic front coming through on Thursday evening. To back that up, the upper level support, we have a northwest to southeast oriented jet stream, polar front jet, and a trough of lower pressure off the eastern seaboard. So that's going to allow that colder Arctic air and these lower thickness values to pour into southeast Virginia. Again, that will be the coldest day this week, with highs between 41 and 43, and the lows overnight will drop into the upper 20s into Saturday morning. All right, forecast valid New Year's Eve. I know a lot of folks out there are planning New Year's Eve festivities across southeast Virginia. What we have going on New Year's Eve, we have the Arctic high pressure system that's just offshore in North Carolina. And what we can expect with a clockwise flow around that high is southwesterly winds and warmer air advection that's going to start moving into the area on southwesterly winds. You notice how the change in configuration between a northwest to southeast orientation of the main jet axis and the trough, how it lifts out of the area by New Year's Eve day and becomes more of a zonal west to east type of jet stream. So we do expect that colder air, the Arctic air will modify. We have a shot of about a 36 to 42 hour window of Arctic air. And then by New Year's Eve day, especially towards late afternoon and evening, temperatures will not drop as quickly, and they will be moderating on southwesterly winds. Dry conditions for your New Year's Eve, no moisture expected, so get ready to bring in 2017 a dry note. Now, New Year's Day, what we expect to happen is an area of low pressure will develop there down towards the Gulf Coast states over Mississippi, with rain shower activity spreading northward into Kentucky and to Tennessee. Still, New Year's Day today, it looks actually drier than what we had indicated a couple days ago. So it's looking really good actually for New Year's Day if you have any activities planned outdoors. Now, I want you to pay attention to this building ridge at the 300 millibar level, the 30,000 foot level with the jet stream. That is going to be a key player in what transpires from this point forward. We have a very deep trough of low pressure that is going to form off the Pacific Northwest, and we have another upper level low over central Canada. Now, at this point in time, the main jet stream will be blowing from southwest towards northeast, which is going to modify these thickness values even more, and we do expect a warming trend to commence on New Year's Day. Again, looks dry as of right now for your forecast for all your outdoor activities for the first day of the new year. Looking at 2 January 2017, we do expect the area of low pressure that was down over Mississippi with the rain to overspread southeast Virginia by the 2nd of January. That will be next Monday. Now, some folks are lucky enough to have a 4-day weekend, so looks like it'll be the wettest day will be Monday, the 2nd of January at this point. And these thicknesses continue to rise. The jet stream orientation over southeast Virginia is southwest to northeast. So you can see a little bit of a ridging that's offshore, off the east coast, but the heights are going to come up a little bit. Look at the orientation of your jet axis. The ridge is now orientating itself more southwest to northeast into western Canada, with a deep trough spreading down into the western United States and more of a southwesterly flow over the Midwest and the eastern U.S. That's going to indicate a period, again, of very mild temperatures, and that trend will continue on into the 3rd of January. We have fairly higher heights. A weak area of high pressure moves in as the rain in that low pressure system moves to the northeast and away from southeast Virginia. So a drying trend by 3 January with high pressure over the area. We do have the jet stream now, still a fairly deep trough. A lot of cold air being dislodged into the lower 48. And then you see a trough into Oregon, into Northern California, and then a stronger jet maximum that'll be moving through the main core of the jet stream from California into Utah, Colorado, Kansas, and northern Missouri. For southeast Virginia, our flow is still generally southwest and northeast on the 3rd of January, next Tuesday. However, you'll notice it's starting to become more zonal, more west to east at this point. Looking at 4 January, our next Arctic cold front is starting to set up to the northwest of the area. You'll see some snow areas breaking out from West Virginia, Kentucky, southern Indiana, southern Missouri, northern Arkansas, into Oklahoma, with some rain to the south of that over south Arkansas, Mississippi, into Tennessee. This jet stream is still very amplified. We have a very strong flow of air in the jet stream from the far northern reaches of Alaska and northwestern Canada, all the way down into the Intermountain West at this point. So the trough axis has shifted a little bit further east. We are definitely now in more of a zonal west to east flow across southeast Virginia, which would indicate a cooling down of temperatures. Most likely temperatures will cool down to more seasonable levels in the lower 50s. 5 January, area of low pressure forms off the coast. Now, we are indicating the possibility of some wintry precipitation somewhere between the 5th of January and the 15th of January across southeast Virginia. A little too early to tell as far as specifics. Where will the rain snow line set up? Or will there be a mix? Or will it just be a cold rain here in the Hampton Road cities? We'll have to keep a close eye on the upper level dynamics to see where areas of low pressure tend to form. Look at your jet stream. This is really impressive, folks. A lot of cold air, this deep amplification, a huge ridge into Alaska and western Canada, into northwestern Canada, with a huge trough of low pressure from far northwest Canada into the northern plains and midwestern United States at this time. We'll have to keep an eye on the orientation of this jet stream overall. Looking at 6 January, now we have a 1034 millibar high, which is positioning itself over eastern Kentucky. We will be on have northerly wind flow at this time, north and northwest wind flow. So that's when the cold temperatures will start rolling in again behind the passage of this Arctic front. So we expect temperatures again to be cooler or colder actually on the 6th of January. That'd be next Friday. Moisture stays offshore, however, so no threats there for any wintry precip. But again, this jet stream is really, really dynamic, and it's a very amplified pattern. We easily can see much colder conditions than what I'm indicating right here and right now. If this amplification becomes more of a ridge over the western U.S. and the trough deepening from the central U.S. eastward, we could have much colder air. All right, and I also want to caution, our temperatures may be milder as well if the orientation of this trough is further west. We do not expect it to be, but again, it's orientation of this jet stream. Where will the flow of the coldest air, the core of the coldest air, reach? Looking at 9 January, the forecast for 9 January, again, there's a potential for a wintry precipitation situation setting up as another Arctic shot of cold air, 1036 millibar high over northern Missouri, as another Arctic high, another Arctic shot of cold air starts blowing into southeast Virginia. There's a possibility we could transition from a colder rain to a snow across the area. So things are starting to get more active as far as precipitation into the colder air. So we'll keep you updated. Stay tuned with us at Spot on Weather for the latest updates. Now, the 11th of January, I'm going to show you another interesting feature here. It's another area of low pressure off the Carolinas. And there's some wintry precip not far from southeast Virginia. There's some snow and a mixture of rain and snow over to the Carolinas, North and South Carolina, further inland away from the coast. So again, we're going to have to keep an eye on things. There's a strong 1049 millibar high situated to our north, which would direct colder air into the area. Typically what we get is, you see the U-shape to these isobars, lines of equal pressure, these solid black lines. That indicates a cold air wedge, which it's harder to dislodge the colder, denser air because it is so heavy. And sometimes you get precip that rides over the top of this colder, denser air at the surface and can result in wintry precip. So that's another possible threat of wintry precip for the area. Again, stay tuned to Spot on Weather for the latest. And then I wanted to show you the 850 millibar level temperatures, day 9 and day 10, 5 and 6 January. These reds, these maroon colors indicate very cold air, and then orange over here on the 6th of January. I wanted to show you the extent of the purples and the reds. These are the much colder temperatures, and the pattern that we are looking at here coming up the first week of January for southeast Virginia. The cold air is building and is advancing slowly but surely to the southeast. You see the flow of air around this low pressure, upper level low, counterclockwise, the wind vectors from the northwest. Again, that happens here on the 6th of January as well. Purples and reds are dominating the northern hemisphere, which indicates colder air. So we have to keep a close eye on the amplification of the jet streams to see where this coldest air is going to spill into and how cold it's actually going to get. So the long-range final thoughts. We're expecting the coldest day with Arctic air in place on Friday the 30th of December, with highs between 41 and 43 degrees this Friday, and lows overnight about 28, 29 degrees into Saturday morning. So it's going to be very cold, and by the way, it will be very windy. We're expecting west-northwest winds at 15 to 20 miles per hour on Friday. So the wind chill values will be in the 30s all day long on Friday. So after today's balmy 70 degrees, it's going to feel much colder and like winter again on Friday. We do expect moderating temperatures as Arctic high pressure moves offshore on New Year's Eve day, especially towards the evening. Temperatures are going to start rebounding. Highs on New Year's Eve day into the upper 40s. We don't expect temperatures to drop nearly as low on Saturday night, New Year's Eve. So the moderating trend commences. We do expect a milder period from New Year's Day, the 1st of January to 4 January, with temperatures rising into the middle to possibly upper 50s for highs, as southwesterly winds develop out ahead of the next Arctic cold front. So the next periods of Arctic air, when do we expect the cold Arctic air to move in? 5 January, 9 January, and again by 12 January. So you can see we will have some mild periods in between these surges of cold Arctic air, but the majority of the long range is dominated by colder temperatures. And if the timing is on track just right with the cold air in place, and we get precipitation over the top to fall into the cold air, we could see our first winter precipitation between 5 and 15 January, as a couple of storm systems may impact southeastern Virginia. At the present time, it does not look like it's a very heavy or very strong storm systems, just some weak minor disturbances, but we will continue to keep an eye on things in the long range. Arctic cold is building, and just a slight change in the orientation or amplification of the jet stream could yield much colder conditions. And it all goes back to the orientation of this jet stream and how it sets itself up. Will it be directed more northwest to southeast? If that's the case, this ridge moves further to the east over western U.S., we could be much colder. And then teleconnections forecast, the Arctic Oscillation and North Atlantic Oscillation are going slightly negative over the next 2 weeks. The Pacific North American pattern is still forecast to remain slightly negative, indicating a trough over the western U.S., while the Eastern Pacific and Western Pacific oscillations are crashing negative again, which indicates a colder time period. All teleconnections favor colder weather in southeast Virginia, except the Pacific North American pattern. If that were to go positive, we'd get a big ridge in the west and a deeper trough in the east, much colder air here for southeast Virginia. So that's all I've got for right now, folks. Prepare again as we got some more shots of winter coming in the long range. Again, I do appreciate your viewership. I hope everybody has a great Tuesday evening. And remember, we're spot on weather. If we're not spot on, we're not doing it right. Have a great evening, everyone.